Hello and hey, mess around with the newly released MageSeeker, a League of Legends story, this time giving a full review. Released on April 18, 2023 by Digital Sun, this League of Legends spin-off game takes the form of an action role-playing / beat-em-up game. The combat is crisp and will have your fingers scrambling to hit all the right buttons, as our protagonist Silas can perform many different abilities and combos, smoothly transitioning between each. There is a higher than average skill ceiling that is a joy to perfect, pulling off your intended combos cleanly. The player's ability to plan ahead and then execute being rewarded in full. A lot of the strategy in combat comes from Silas's ability to steal magic and then use it on his foes. There are 6 different types of magic, each opposed with one other element, doing considerably more damage against each other, and much less against their own type. Deeper still, there are different levels for each school of magic. Stealing a fireball in the early game becomes stealing an ability to shoot a fireball in every direction later on. But that's not all. Silas isn't limited to simply thieving his magic, he can also learn the spells he steals, for a small fee in the hideout and as you unlock spell slots. You can use them freeform, providing you have the mana, another resource you can unlock higher amounts of. Unfortunately, the system of using spells that you pick falls a bit short of expectations. Having the mana needed from the most useful spells can be difficult to maintain. Your physical attacks generate mana as you deal damage, but I felt that after the basic spells stop doing meaningful damage, a lot of spells begin to feel a bit useless. This is actually fine, as Silas's constant stealing of enemy spells leaves you with enough magic to feel like you are actually still playing a mage, the lack of a mana cost for stolen spells sealing the deal on how quickly you can chain through big groups of enemies, especially combined with the rest of his kit, which is robust. He can dash, light attack, heavy attack, and chain pull in addition to casting spells. You also unlock combos to combine those buttons into even more attacks. Like I said before, your fingers will likely be scrambling to try to use the full suite. I was a bit worried by that fact going in. It's just so many buttons that you want to be hitting in quick succession. Kind of reminds me a touch of Mega Man X with wanting to hold a charge shot, jumping, and dashing all at the same time. Anyway, off topic. Silas feels good, his hitboxes are good, enemy hitboxes are good. There is a bit of sponginess to enemies in the later game, which is a little unfortunate. However, I didn't have him fully upgraded. Still, the upgrades I did have were so incremental, I could see it still being a drag even if I were. Worth noting though, this game has a lot of difficulty options. I just played it right down the middle. Normal difficulty and not touching the sliders. It wasn't as big of a deal to recommend the sliders, but it did make me think about it a couple times, and your mileage may vary. We've talked a lot about how the character feels and plays, and for good reason. It's the star of the show. The story by comparison is just middling, and if you have no idea who the characters from League of Legends are, you'll likely think it's even worse. It's fun as an old school League player to see these characters in different roles. With a loose knowledge of lore, I think they were portrayed pretty faithfully, some weird things here and there, but the dialogue is a bit flat, plainly basic at times. It doesn't drag on or stop the narrative from coming through, just not especially good or noteworthy. The new characters are fine, serving as different aids to the protagonist, and all can be seen kind of outdoing us. Canonically, we're the strong warrior meant to be showing others how to fight, but some of the cutscenes make you think, you know, they probably would have this without me. I understand that they wanted to make it feel like a team effort, and it is very effective at that, but it does make me wish that I could have some moments like that, or some abilities like that. It's something you'll notice. Silas himself has a serviceable character arc. You can see where it is going the entire time, but it doesn't feel like you're just going through the motions to get there. Starting as a cynical lone wolf, me versus the world, and then building towards the shared goal through loss and adversity. He's likable enough, again, if a touch flat. Leaving as many spoilers off the table as I can, to summarize, pretty basic storyline, but it's alright. Would expect most players focusing only the main missions to wrap the game up in under 8 hours. Those wanting to play the side missions or look for all the little collectibles, potentially double, particularly if trying to quote-unquote 100%. It's not something that I'm all that interested in personally, or I'd give you a more exact time frame. Speaking of those side missions, they have much more of a roguelike quality to them, well, some do anyway, getting different bonuses to skills that you assign over your own selected spells. This was neat, but as the rewards never felt that great or necessary, I gave up on them pretty quickly. However, I was just interested in the main story and didn't feel the initial need to grind, so just full context on that. But to conclude, I enjoyed the combat, while being able to tolerate the story. Was a bit disappointed in the selected magic system, as well as felt like I was just spamming the same combo on some very tanky late game enemies, but I am glad I played it. $30 USD is not cheap for what amounted to an 8-hour experience. but would be much easier to recommend at a lower price point, so definitely take a look at it when it goes on sale. Fans of League of Legends lore might get a tickle out of seeing some familiar faces, while those who are unfamiliar will get a serviceable story. The key to all of this is how you vibe with the combat system, so if you're interested, the Steam Refund 2-hour system exists. I'd give the game a solid 7 out of 10, but feel free to ask any questions in the appropriate section and I'll do my best to answer. As always, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Be safe, guys.